So, freaks, it's your boy Marty Ben here to introduce this episode of Tales from the Crypt. A little over a year since we last sat down with Misir Mahmudov. He is back on the podcast to talk about a book he just published, a book by the title of This Book Will Save You Time, diving into the concept of inflation and how your time is not valued correctly under a fiat monetary system. We jump into how the book was made, why he made it, how he's donating the profits to Bitcoin development, and much more. I think you guys will particularly like this episode if you found the J.K. Rowling Bitcoiner back and forth Twitter royale yesterday interesting. Believe it or not, we recorded this episode before that happened, and it'll be pretty funny if you guys were paying attention. This episode of Tales from the Crypt is brought to you by our good friends at the Cash App. You freaks already know all about them. All right, they're helping you stack sats, they're helping you sell sats, they're helping you receive sats, they're helping you send sats. Also, they're making sats to standard. I've officially made sats to standard on the Cash App. If you're on the iPhone, go to the money button, hit Bitcoin, where like the deposit withdrawal is. You can change the units from Bitcoin to sats. Do it. I did it. On top of the sats, you can stack slivers of stonks if you want. You don't have to. I know a lot of you don't want to, and you don't see the value in stacking stonks, slivers of stonks at that. But the option's there. Optionality is good. If you want the option, there's some freaks out there that do want the option. You can now stack slivers of stonks on the Cash App. What's a sliver of a stonk? It's as little as $1 of a stonk. You don't have to buy the whole thing. If it's too expensive, you can't afford it, buy a sliver of it, as little as $1. Cash App investing is directly connected to your bank account, so there's no 3 to 4 day waiting periods. Okay, you can start investing today. On top of that, Cash App investing is a subsidiary of Square and member SIPC. As always, use the code STACKINGSATS. You're going to get $10, and $10 is going to go to our good friends at Owls Lacrosse. That's Owls Lacrosse. Use the code STACKINGSATS. Enjoy this episode. Happy Saturday, Rip freaks.
You've had a dynamic where money's become freer than free.
If you talk about a Fed just gone nuts, all the central banks going nuts.
So it's all acting like safe haven.
I believe that in a world where central bankers are tripping over themselves to devalue their currency, Bitcoin wins. In the world of fiat currencies, Bitcoin is the victor.
I mean, that's part of the bull case for Bitcoin.
If you're not paying attention, you probably should be.
Damn it. No, we're recording. What is up, freaks? It's your boy Marty Bent here. Lovely Thursday afternoon. Vibes are high where I'm at. A lot of calls this morning. Very happy to finally be sitting down for this interview. I've been waiting for it for quite some time. The agreement to record this podcast was made months ago, but it was the final date of recording was to be determined by the launch of a book by the name of This Book Will Save You Time by our guest, Misir Mahmudov. Misir, how are you doing?
Hey, Marty. Hey, Matt. I'm really happy to be here once again. And just before we begin, I'd like to say that I'm really grateful for what you guys do and for this podcast. It has given me so much. It has really been a guiding light as I started listening to you guys from the very beginning of the rabbit hole journey. And second of all, I wouldn't have been here for the second time if it wasn't for that episode that we recorded almost exactly a year ago where this idea was born. So I think it's really cool that we're doing this again.
No, I'm pumped. And like I was telling you before we hit record, that episode is the second most popular episode we have ever recorded, right behind Jack Dorsey. It's Jack then you, you're number 2. How's that make you feel?
Well, that I'm in really great company, and that's pretty unbelievable because you've had so many incredible guests. But I think that's exactly the reason why I decided to write this book, because this idea really, I understood that it resonated with a lot of people, and I had to just make something and make sure that other people could share this information with their friends and family.
Yeah, no, it's definitely one of the episodes that resonates strongest with people who listen to it. And it's actually the episode I tell people to listen to first, is if you want to understand the concept of Bitcoin and why it's important. It's because it really relates to time and the value of your time, more importantly. And understanding that is imperative for understanding the importance of why we Bitcoin and why Bitcoin is imperative moving forward as we move into the digital age. So I guess we'll just jump into it. This book will save you time. I've read through it, threw a couple edits at you. You published the Kindle a couple months ago, and you published the physical copy, the physical paperback version a couple days ago on the 15th. Was that yesterday? Or
That was yesterday, yeah.
Yeah, the 13th. What was it like writing this book? What went into it? What did you expand on from the episode that we recorded last year?
Absolutely. So that episode, that was such a memorable time. I look back at that day when we recorded it, and it was a great experience because I left with a lot of thoughts, and I continued to think about the topic all of the next year. And I had a lot of conversations with all different kinds of people. People like Robert Breedlove, who has also expanded on the topic. Ben Prentice, with whom we share ideas a lot. And this idea was just so awe-inspiring that I thought that it had to be formulated in a format where people can easily share, because like a 3 hour podcast that we recorded last year, it was amazing, but most people don't have time. Nobody has the time for that. In terms of just like your average friend, he's not going to listen for 3 hours. But reading a short book that puts it in a more concise and a structured, organized manner, I think that's definitely something. So today I'd like to start with saying that before I get into the book, I'd like to say the following. The reason why I wrote it is because I think that Bitcoin is basically a collection of memes, and we have all of us Bitcoiners, we have an arsenal of memes, sort of cultural defense mechanisms that we can use to fend for ourselves. And these memes, you know all of these memes. We'll get to them just in a second. But first of all, I'd like to say, what are memes? So do you guys remember that game of broken telephone that children used to play?
Whisper Down the Lane? Something like
Exactly.
that.
You whisper down the lane, and then by the time the last person hears it, the message is completely distorted. So basically, memes are the ideas that stick with people best, and they're really easy to understand. And some are stronger than others. They resonate with people. And I think we're basically a lot of people have talked about this on Bitcoin Twitter, and we are basically fighting a meme war. There's meme warfare. And just to recap some of the memes that I think that they deserve a lot of attention and praise, because they make up a fundamental structure of the sociological phenomenon that is Bitcoin. Orange coin good, number go up. That's the basis. Everyone's here for number go up, of course. Bitcoin fixes this. No matter what happens, you retweet and with the comment, Bitcoin fixes this. That these things, even if they are indirect, it's just something you say and it's so easy to understand. Then of course we have stay humble, stack sats. That I applaud you guys for making this a thing, because I can't imagine how many stacks were actually hodled because of what you guys said on your episodes. It's incredible.
That was like 2 years of way too long Twitter threads on dollar cost averaging and not using leverage, and I got it distilled into 4 words.
Yeah.
Exactly. This is why I'm here, because you basically distill it and you optimize it, and then you launch it, and then the next thing you know, everyone is talking about it, because it's just so easy to replicate. and pass down that lane. Another, of course, we can't, especially in the light of recent events, money printer go brr. That's fucking huge. What WTF happened in 1971, popularized by our friends Ben Prentice and Colin, the heavily armed clown. I'm a big fan of what these guys are doing. They recently appeared on the podcast, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Last week. Yeah, you guys can go find that.
That was a great episode.
Great episode
Yeah,
and great
episode
website.
156 or 57.
I think that episode that website is extremely underrated. Like it really red pills people, and it doesn't even have to mention Bitcoin anywhere, and it just straight up red pills them.
Yeah, absolutely. That's actually what I wrote my thesis in college about. It was basically the effects of the cancellation of the gold window by Nixon. It was a pretty long paper. I actually sent it to Ben the other day. But basically, these guys were able to meme that into something that people can understand, and I love, like, every time they appear on a podcast, that's a must listen. So shout out to you guys. You're doing a great job.
Can I
They got
just
Eric
add
Weinstein
something?
talking about it.
Yeah.
They got Eric Weinstein talking about it.
The funniest part is on that tweet that Eric Weinstein retweeted. Someone responded. There was like a bunch of responses underneath that were like, "The chart needs to be adjusted for inflation," and you see like Ben in there and heavily armed clown. Like, dude, that's the whole point of the website.
Yeah, that's hilarious. So basically, we have all these memes, right? And the beauty of Bitcoin is that we can talk about it in so many different ways. And I think that's definitely something we have to keep in mind, because especially when you talk to no coiners or just new people, you have to realize that every person is different. Everyone cares about different things. And you can maybe adjust your language a bit, or shift the focus of the conversation, but keep the main idea the same. And the idea is that Bitcoin is the answer. Bitcoin fixes whatever the hell you're worried about in one way or another, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whatever it is, gold 2.0, unstoppable money, a savings vehicle, or the real Occupy Wall Street. Everyone, like, in one way or another, Bitcoin can help every single person. And it can be difficult to communicate that, but I feel like if you try, it is very possible. And on a personal side note, like, I feel just like any other person who has been interested in Bitcoin for a number of years, it has only been natural to me to share and talk to my friends about Bitcoin, the friends who have nothing to do with the space, right? And you face this difficulty, right, of communicating the value proposition to other people. And some of the things that you usually say to a friend, like, okay, so there's this amazing thing, it's decentralized, there's only 21 million of them, blah, 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 right? And by the time you say that, you've probably lost them. Right. And that's kind of sad, because they won't get to witness what we are witnessing. But at the same time, I feel like, you know how you get a series of reactions, the unimpressed know-it-all who will say, "Oh God, Bitcoin, really? Haven't you read the news? Bitcoin is dead. It's a bubble." Or, I don't know, the apathetic, "Oh, that's really cool. Okay, gotta go." So you get all these answers, and to be honest with you guys, you can't blame these people. You simply can't. And frankly, like, why do we expect a person to understand such a profound and unprecedented piece of innovation after hearing about it once or twice from a random news anchor, right? And, like, it's unfair to really say that, oh my God, they don't understand, because, like, it's hard. It's not that easy, right?
It's very
why would the average person really care about it if they have no understanding of how money works, if they know nothing about central banking, if they never read Nick Szabo, they don't know what rice stones are, they don't know monetary history. Like, at best, they probably think that money is still backed by gold. That's actually pretty good, like, you know, because most people don't even know how money works. And most importantly, like, people don't understand what scarcity is, how demand and supply works. And, like, why do we expect them to understand Bitcoin the very first time we tell them about it on a drunken Friday night at a pizza parlor after a bar hopping session, you know? And like, I studied economics in a university, and most of the things that I needed to know about Bitcoin in order to appreciate Bitcoin, I had to learn outside of class on my own. Like, even that didn't really help me. Do you feel the same way?
Totally. Somebody who studied economics in college as well, I mean, definitely learned more outside of the classroom than I did in via online sources, whether it be YouTube, Twitter.
Like, you don't get to learn anything that's... Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And and I also agree it's very daunting trying to explain this stuff to people, especially on the first touch, their first exposure to the idea. And it is, you feel like Charlie Day and It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia when he's got that Pepe Sylvia conspiracy going. You're just like all over the place. Well, you got these nodes, you got these miners. There's only 21 million. Nobody can ever change it, and the governments can't take it down. You sound like a crazy person.
Yeah, exactly. And in addition to that, like, how much false information has been communicated to all these people, like an average person, about Bitcoin that is absolutely wrong and so misleading that they have to deal with. And you come to them with that package already, so you have to deal with that, which is also quite sad. So basically, after realizing all of this, I came to the conclusion that if you tell someone about Bitcoin, you have to relate it to them on some kind of personal level first for them to care. Unless they relate it to themselves in one way or another, they will probably not fall down the rabbit hole, because it's just, you have to understand why we Bitcoin, you have to see some kind of struggle in the world. If you live in a Western world where everything, where you have your, I don't know, inflation of 5%, it can be hard to really see it, although it's there, but it always it is designed so that you don't really see it. But if you look at the big picture, it's there. So basically,
well, what you're getting at is you need to create empathy for the person you're speaking with. You have to get them to care and get on their same level. And it's actually a literary trick that I learned in college, taking a writing course, and actually learned it by watching a documentary, Food Inc., which is about the terrible nature of like factory farming and fast food. Of like, obviously we're meat eaters here. I prefer grazing cattle, but that documentary, regardless of whether you agree with the content or not, the creator of that documentary, he tries to create empathy in the first scene by eating a burger at a restaurant and saying like, hey, like I like burgers too. Even though I'm going to go through this whole documentary explaining why some parts of the food industry are fucked up, I am like you, I eat burgers. And so when trying to explain Bitcoin, it's probably best to try to find an empathy touch point first, which I think is what you're getting at there.
Absolutely. You're definitely on point. And like, coming back to memes, I think that the memes, in order to work really well, they have to be as relatable as possible. And unfortunately, some of the memes that are popular, they're kind of hard to relate to for a person who doesn't understand all the above mentioned stuff about, I don't know, like money supply and Fed and all these things. Like, to most people, it doesn't mean anything, like the money printers or whatever. Like, you need to understand these basic concepts of scarcity that for some reason nobody really teaches, And basically, just to recap from 1 year ago when we were here, time is your only scarce resource. You've got, on average, 600,000 hours. That is 70 years, an average lifespan. That's it. Not just to think about that. You don't even have 1 million hours in your life, around 600,000. And obviously we already have less because we've lived a considerable chunk of our lives. And every day you exchange your precious time for pieces of paper. And unlike your time, which is truly scarce, these pieces of paper are created out of thin air every day, as we were reminded in the last few months with the QE infinity and the trillions that were printed. So tell me now, why would you exchange the most valuable the only thing that you really have, strictly limited number of hours on this planet for something whose supply is virtually infinite. Just to remind our listeners what we were trying to talk about exactly 1 year ago, and this is the premise of the book. And like for this reason, you should reconsider and start learning about Bitcoin, whose supply is similarly scarce, unlike the money that we use in the traditional system.
No, I actually love the title of the book. This book will save you time, with the B, with the Bitcoin B. I think it's genius. And so I sent it to my brother, who's obviously knows I'm into Bitcoin. He's not. I mean, he's stacked some sats in the past, but like has never like really dove in to. He has more recently, but before like the halving and all that, I never really like did too much research. But I sent your book over to him, and he read it in like an hour and was like, "Yo, I get it now. Like actually, I get it. Like this makes a lot of sense. It was concise. It was to the point, and it was in a digestible manner that really helped me understand why we're doing this." And let's dive into that. Like this book will save you time. How does Bitcoin save you time? Does it open up, since you are able to better store your value in a currency that respects a supply cap? Is that the accumulation of wealth open up the ability for you to sort of rest on your laurels? Does it allow you to focus on what you want to work on instead of getting caught up in the rat race, which one may consider wasted time when compared to something that they could be doing that they like, and they wouldn't consider that time wasted? How does Bitcoin save you time?
Yeah, exactly. Just like you said, we live in a system where our money it should exist in a limited supply, but it does not, and we have to deal with that. And the way we pay for that is the fact that we spend a lot more time working in our lives than we should be, because every year, let's say you have a currency that you're paid in has an inflation rate of 5%. That's actually not that bad. That's probably what the dollar inflation rate usually is on average. And once again, like if you think about it, just 5%, not too bad, right? If my money, if I have $100, 5%, next year I'll have 95. I can live with that. But once you compound that, once you consider the compound effect, it will take you less than 15 years for that $100 to lose 50% of its value, which means that for all these years that you've been working and putting away money for whatever you were saving up for, 15 years later, half of that money is gone. And just to use an example, like God forbid this happens to anybody, but if somebody goes into a coma for a number of years and they come, like 10 years later, they come out of it. Oh, by the way, because of inflation, half of your wealth is now gone.
Yeah, the modern central bankers are not thinking of the man in the coma. We like to think about the man in the coma on this podcast. And you got to think about how you're affecting his purchasing power.
I mean, it's a hyperbole, but nevertheless, this effect is real. And this is like, this idea, I think it really resonates. And when I was writing the book, I did not want to include the word Bitcoin into the title on purpose. Because once again, like I said, a lot of people, they have been fed all this crappy information about Bitcoin on the mainstream media, and their understanding of it is so perverted and so skewed that whenever you try to approach them and talk about Bitcoin, they already have the preconceptions and the prejudices that make them say, "Oh my God, no, not Bitcoin! Please don't sell me this. Whatever the news anchor told me it is, Ponzi, a bubble, whatever it is, right?" So that was done on purpose. I did not include the word Bitcoin so that people don't have the prejudices when they open the book. They start with something new. But of course, the word book, in this book will save you time, the letter B is a Bitcoin B. So although the title doesn't have the word, Bitcoiners will understand what's what waits for the what they can expect inside the book, right?
Yeah.
And so yeah, and to be honest, like first 7 or 8 chapters, they don't talk about Bitcoin.
Yeah, I was just about to say
And
that.
I think
That was one of my favorite parts. One of my
and of course that's also on purpose, because like if, just like we've said previously, if the person doesn't understand all these different things, the things that their time is being literally taken away from them because of a money whose supply is being inflated and whose value disappears, whose years are literally thrown out of the window because their savings, they're not doing the job correctly. Like, how can they? If they don't understand the concepts such as scarcity, attention economy, they won't be able to appreciate Bitcoin for what it really is. So I only start talking about Bitcoin closer to the end of the book, which I think allows the reader to really choose for themselves. And I think that most people, they do see value once they are able to get a grasp of all those other concepts.
Yeah, another favorite part of this book will save you time that I loved is the part on shrinkflation and really visualizing the shrinkflation that has existed and persisted in our world.
I'm getting there. I'm getting there. I want to talk about it. That's actually my favorite part of the book as well.
Yeah.
And I know you're a big fan of this topic. Nobody really talks about it. It's crazy how like it's such a fascinating thing, but you never really hear anyone say much about it, you know?
Yeah, and it's pervasive. Like it is undeniable that that's the insidious thing about inflation, is that it manifests itself in many different ways, whether it be overt devaluing of your purchasing power that shows up in prices via increased prices, or the more insidious version.
Inflation is everywhere, my friend.
Yeah,
it's everywhere.
More insidious way is shrinkflation, where they may keep the price the same, so you think you're not prices haven't risen, but you're getting less of the good that you're paying for, and you may not even realize it at the time.
Exactly. Like, so apart from the inflation and the fact that prices are constantly rising because of increased amount of money in circulation, there are many ways, just like you said, that corporations try to hide the effects of a decreased purchasing power of a currency. And shrinkflation is perhaps the most fascinating example. It's basically the fact that as more money is created and as currency loses its value over time, producers of goods reduce the size and the quality of their products in order to somewhat maintain the prices. And in fact, I have a really cool diagram inside the book that actually it's like one of my favorite things. It basically shows all the different. It's a study that shows how different chocolate bars in the UK have changed in size and in price from 2014 to 2018. And for example, in 2014, a Snickers bar weighed 232 grams and cost 74 pence, so 0.74 pounds. And by 2018, literally in just 4 years, the weight of the same Snickers bar shrunk to 167 grams, and its cost rose to 1.26 pounds. Within only 4 years, the Snickers bar became 28% smaller and 71% more expensive. So we only really see the 71% more expensive usually, right? But like, and I actually thought about it, and that's true. Like, remember like 20 years ago when we were young, you would buy a Snickers bar and it was actually like really big, and now it's just like becomes smaller and smaller. But it becomes smaller in just by just like a few percent every year that you don't notice it, and you get used to that smaller and smaller size. So it's just so insidiously hidden from our eyes, but it's right in front of us.
It's the frog boiling in water, right? Like you're just enough each year where you don't notice it until you wake up like 5 years. You're like, wait a second, weren't these bigger like a decade ago? But then on top of that, like the quality, like focusing on the quality too, like blender that somebody bought in the 50s or 60s it lasts 20, 30 years. These days, you're lucky if it lasts 5 years. So you're paying maybe even less today for some of these hard goods, probably more though. But they're not lasting as long. You're not getting as much bang for your buck.
Oh yeah, not even that, but like coming back to like products that we consume, the size and the price are objective criteria that we can judge, right? That we can judge by. But the quality, like who knows what kind of, I don't know, caramel they're using. Maybe they switched to like much cheaper version of all the ingredients for a Snickers bar, you know, and like we'll never know that, but it's probably there too, like most definitely, because it's just the easiest thing to hide away from the eyes. Actually, one of my favorite examples is the the Toblerone bar.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
In 2016, it was redesigned, and two peaks. You know how like Toblerone is basically like it's in the shape of like these the mountains, the Alps. Yeah, and it has these peaks, right? And two peaks were removed, and the distances between each peak was made larger. And this was the design change that like is just the craziest example of shrinkflation.
Yeah,
it's like not even funny.
No, and again, in the insidious nature of these games that you play, like you get shrinkflation and the quality and the size of the goods is one aspect, and then they, like you said, the true rate of inflation is probably 5%, but if you look at the CPI, that's not the case, and that's another really evil part about the narrative around inflation these days, is the metrics used to measure it and how they're manipulated.
Absolutely. I actually touch upon that in the book as well. How let me see 1 second. Yeah, so basically, like the consumer price index, it's constantly every year. Like I didn't know about that, but it turns out that it's adjusted. The consumer habits, whatever those are, quote unquote, consumer habits are adjusted. The basket of goods is adjusted every year to reflect consumer habits. And clearly, this is such a gray area. Like there's so much room here to adjust it in a way that will fit whoever's agenda it needs to fit, you know, like how can you trust these numbers? Like 2% inflation targets are met. Yes, of course.
They switch out like a quality ribeye with rough rice, which obviously does not give you the same amount of nutrients or
soy.
Or soy, exactly. Something that gives you tits is switched in for something that keeps you nice and healthy. And it's so. How has the book been received? Like, do you obviously Bitcoiners are going to buy it. They want to put it on their bookshelf of Bitcoin books. I'm more worried about like people like my brother. Like I have one anecdote in my mind of somebody I showed the book to and immediately resonated with. Are you seeing this as well as more and more people have read the Kindle?
Definitely. And that's the reason why I was so excited about the paperback copy, because like the purpose, I wrote the book. Of course, the Bitcoiners are going to read it, and they'll hopefully enjoy it. But the main audience are the no coiners, I believe, and the people who maybe heard about it but were never approached from the side in which they are able to understand from this accessible point of view. And from what I hear so far, although it's only been it hasn't been that much, because I can't wait for a Bitcoiner to basically give it, just like you did with your brother. Like that's what I'm hoping will happen more, and I'm really anticipating the reaction from people who know nothing about Bitcoin, because I mean, as Bitcoiners, we're all biased, but those people are the audience that will prove how successful this book is and will be.
This meme, right? How successful this meme is, right? Like everybody wants to save time. Everybody wants to be able to utilize their time in the most efficient way possible, and in a way that optimizes for their happiness and enjoyment of life. And so I do sort of agree with what you said earlier, that yes, orange coin good, number go up, stay humble, stack sats, what the fuck happened in 1971 are all great memes that are very powerful in front of certain audiences. But I think saving individual times is something that everybody on earth wants to do. See, you're literally opening up the understanding, the amount of people who understand that concept to a much larger number.
Yeah, exactly. As I call the book, it's basically a Bitcoin primer disguised as a self-help book, which is one of the reasons why it doesn't have the word Bitcoin in the title.
I like that. Are you in the self-help book in the Amazon store? That's the way to go. Or is it economics?
I think it's economics, but I think you can add more categories, which I'll try to do. I'll put it as a self-help.
You gotta add self-help. My mom was reading a self-help book the other day. It's like, that's talking about bigger audience. That's definitely do that, I would say, because that's don't confine yourself to the economics world, right? Not everybody wants to read economics books.
Next day, like all the do-it-yourself people are Austrian economists.
You're gonna have James Altucher is going to be pumping your book on Facebook.
One of the reasons I feel like it's so powerful is because time is money is already such an established meme. Like I grew up knowing the meme time is money, right? So to then just connect that to time is scarce and your money should be scarce isn't that big of a leap for people. And I think that was that connection is just really, really effective.
Absolutely. And I will actually tell you one other thing that kind of relates to this. Like I remember when I started writing the book, it was last October, I was like, okay, what should I start with? So I had a bunch of different notes and that I was putting together, and I was like, you know what? The first thing that I'm going to do before writing is go back and rewatch this one movie that I saw as a child in the cinema. It was called, and you guys probably saw it because it's a very popular film, In Time, with Justin Timberlake.
Yes,
and
sir.
Yeah, I mean, for those who don't know about it, but it's basically, the premise is that every person in the world has a digital clock on their forearm saying how many years, days, and hours they have left. So instead of money, they use literal time. So the rich have thousands of or hundreds of years to live, while the poor, they have to usually live from day to day. They're forced to work and get paid just 10 hours a day,
like paycheck
just
to paycheck,
to survive.
but with their lifetime.
Exactly. Yeah.
It was a shitty movie that was a great premise.
No, there's that one
absolutely.
scene. There's that one scene where he's trying to meet up with his mom to give her some time, and she her time expires right before they meet.
By like
That's
2 minutes,
Right, yeah.
just barely.
Yeah.
Spoiler.
Yeah, if you haven't seen it yet, sorry.
Yeah, so actually one of my other favorite scenes in the movie is when the protagonist, when Timberlake character, he's surprised when he finds out that the price of coffee has gone up, and he's basically saying, quoting him here, 4 minutes for a cup of coffee? And his friend is like, yesterday was just 3. And then the vendor is like, you want a coffee or you want to reminisce, right? So this is exactly what's going on in our life, right?
Yeah.
The price of coffee, for example, in Venezuela has I have a statistic in the book. Yeah, in 2017 it cost 0.2 bolivars, and just 2 years later, by 2019, the price rose to 18,000 bolivars. So that is very relevant, right?
Yeah. No, and again, speaking of relevance, like right now, the environment we're in now, we're experiencing, at least where I am, we're experiencing some inflation, potentially hyperinflation of deli meats, right? My wife went to the deli the other day to get some roast beef, and they warned her. They're like, hey, it's precipitously more expensive than it was the last time you were here. Like, you might want to think about buying some or not buying some.
Yeah, exactly. They have lost so much time during the pandemic and so many clients that they're trying to make up by like even if there are deflationary pressures, they're still trying to hype up the prices. And
Well,
so like
I think they're forced to. I think it was a supply demand thing from the supply chain. 'Cause the deli has been open the whole time we've been here, but beyond that, like just thinking of the central banking situation we find ourselves in around the world, not just here in the States. The Maddie Mazinchis and Fernando from the Crypto Voices podcast released their monetary base report for Q1 2020, and it increased by 18%. And if you if you factor in like some yuan toying, they think that the estimate could be as high as 30% of an increase of the global monetary base, and which
that's
is
only
insane.
up to March 2022.
Yeah, so we don't even have April and beginning of May.
April
when
was a
most of these
blockbuster
stimulus. Yeah, when all these stimulus reactions really came to play. So it'll be interesting to see what they release for Q2 2020. And I mean, Max Hildebrand was on Twitter today, warning about hyperinflation. Is it going to show up? And I've had people push back on me because I said hyperinflation. I tweeted out a few weeks ago at this point, that hyperinflation is lurking around the corner. Because I think if you shut down all these supply chains, shut down the economy, and start airdropping money in people's bank accounts, you have more and more dollars chasing less and less goods that are being produced. I think we're in a weird situation where people keep saying hyperinflation will never happen. We're actually going to get deflation, but I don't know, man. You have any thoughts on this, Misir?
I think that eventually, I don't know when, and I don't want to predict. I'm not big on predictions, but eventually I think inflation we're just doomed for it, right? After everything is said and done, after so much money has been printed, there's no other way. I mean, it will take time for the whole world to adjust and for everything to get back to normal. But after that, that's what I think. And
right.
Bitcoin is prepared really well for that case scenario.
Yeah. No, it's I hope. And again, I saw you commented on the Jeff Booth episode, Matt, about Bitcoin can succeed in without the world going to shit, which I agree, but it may be succeeding because the world goes to shit if things keep going the way they're going.
Great episode, by the way.
Trajectory keeps up. Thank you.
Yeah, that was a great one.
It's such a weird time. It's such a great time to have this book come out. Like, people are quarantined and wondering what the hell is going on.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I couldn't plan the release of the book for a global pandemic, right? When I was writing it last year. But for better or worse, this is ever more relevant today, and let's hope that people will be able to find some kind of solace in the information that people like you guys are providing at this difficult and uncertain time. And I think that Bitcoin, like, you know what, I'm just going to say it. Bitcoin fixes literally everything. Few people understand this. And it does. Like, this goes, like, you tweeted a few days ago, Marty, that what was it? You will say it better.
Fix the money,
Fix the money, fix the world.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Like that, Marty.
And this is another meme. And like, all these people have so many different frustrations about everything, and they think that these guys are to blame. No, it's these guys, or it's this thing, or it's that thing. But and that's all on the surface. What's deep inside is the fact that half of everything, your every interaction, your every exchange is absolutely backwards. How can you live in a world? Like, I was thinking the other day, back in high school, I was learning about economics, and we had to learn by heart the definition of economics. And it was the study of allocation of scarce resources to satisfy the unlimited wants, right? And I feel like that idea of scarce resources, scarcity, like ever since I've learned that definition, it never really appeared again throughout my academic career in college or anywhere else, like unless I was doing my own research outside of class. And it's just so crazy how nowadays economics and people's understanding of what economics is and what it should be has become so antithetical to just the definition. Like, if it's the study of allocation of scarce resources, how can you have QE infinity? Like, it's just ridiculous.
Right? And we're seeing it right now. That's what I wrote about this morning. Like, the Fed is stepping in the high yield corporate debt markets right now. Like, how can you ever have good information come to market, pricing information specifically?
Exactly.
If you're
all the signals are absolutely distorted.
If you're pumping unlimited money, like in something that should fail, you're wasting others' time by extending the amount of time that those failures get to persist and sustain themselves.
And that compounds. Yeah. And so much time is lost.
Right. And it's weird. Like, that makes me wonder, like, again, like, there's probably no huge conspiracy, but like, how bad is it that they're going to these lengths to keep everything in check, or at least in a form of stasis, at least a state of stasis? Like, how bad is it that they have to do all this and they feel compelled to do all this? Like, what happens if they let this stuff fail? Is it ego, or are they like really worried about the state of humanity if this stuff were to go down?
Yeah, it all sounds very, very unsustainable. I mean, and I don't want to speculate on any of that stuff, because there is something else. There's something else that you can be more certain about. And that's the reason why we're here.
Yeah. The blocks are being produced. Blocks are coming in slow now. I'm checking the mempool's got 81,000 transactions. Exahash is falling like 83 exahash a second right now.
Fees are up. One important thing that we haven't highlighted here is that you intend to sell this book on a not-profit basis, right?
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely, yes.
That's incredible, dude. This thing's going to blow up, I think, especially if you get in the self-help section.
So the idea is you're going to take the revenue and you're going to donate it to Bitcoin devs. Is that correct?
Yes, absolutely correct.
That's fucking awesome, dude. Respect.
Thank you, guys.
Why'd you decide to do this? Why not make some money from your hard time? Are you not valuing your time here?
Oh, I'm going against my own principles here, right? No, because I think that, first of all, it's a great way to spread the message, because not only do you incentivize for people to learn about Bitcoin and get, like, I don't know, a piece of educational material that they can share, but also at the same time, they are donating money in order to make this system more robust and support it. So I think that, like, you kill two birds with one stone, which is a great opportunity. And I mean, I don't know how much money that will be. That depends on how many copies will be sold, but whatever it is, I think that could help certain developer or certain developers who are making this all possible.
If you hit JK Rowling status, you could literally be the biggest Bitcoin dev funder in the world at some point.
The timeline I want to be in.
Right. No, I mean, and if you're stacking sats, if you're holding stacks, maybe that's an investment that pays off more in the long run. You're reinvesting in the protocol, which increases the value of the sats that you're holding. It's an interesting play here, Misir. Interesting play. I like it.
4D chess. Also, I'd like to. Sorry, what?
The other thing I kind of wanted to touch on was, so you published this through Amazon Publishing.
Yeah.
What was that experience like? Would you recommend that to other people who want to release a book? You know, what were the negatives? What were the positives there?
Yeah, I think I would definitely recommend that experience because I have never, I don't know how dealing with an actual publisher really is, and I'm assuming that's takes a lot more coordination and a lot more people, and probably a lot more time, because here you can upload your own book, both Kindle and paperback. You have to do some formatting, of course, that will take maybe a few days. But all in all, it's quite a smooth experience, and I actually didn't know before getting into this whole endeavor. I didn't know that you can sit in a room, you can write something, and you can publish it, and then some other people, some Amazon people, obviously, Amazon will basically go and print it and deliver it and do everything without you having to ever call anyone or email anyone, which is quite cool. So I definitely recommend people who have ideas about Bitcoin or just ideas in general that they want to share with people to try to use this platform. It was surprisingly cool.
Yeah, it seems like a great way to do it if you just want to get it out there without having to go through that headache of publishing. And then I imagine going through a publisher, like you said, takes more time, and then the money aspect of that side.
To be honest, I don't know what kind of cuts publishers take, and I'm assuming that they might be higher than those taken by Amazon.
What's the cut that Amazon takes?
I think it's 40% off of, yeah.
Hopefully they match your donations to the Bitcoin. That's something. Talking about Bitcoiners being memers. We got a meme that this book was written by the next J.K. Rowling into existence. We're gonna get in the self-help section first, and then we just got to spread the word that the next J.K. Rowling. Normies love Harry Potter, so Matt's got it behind his shoulder right now. We just got to make sure that we get that message out there, and we sort of Trojan horse an educational book on how sound money saves you time in the long run to the masses. I think this is the way to go. This is our marketing strategy, freaks.
We need the Oprah shill. If anyone knows Oprah.
I'd like to give a shout out to a person who really helped me make this into a reality. It was Gigi. Famous Gigi, the author of 21 Lessons. He has really helped me with the whole process, editing, the formatting, then Amazon, because he has published a book as well, which everyone should read. It's called 21 Lessons. It was actually one of the things that inspired me. I heard the audio version by Guy Swan, and then I was like, maybe I should also write something that could be of use to other people.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Gigi.
Shout out to Gigi. Go check out 21lessons.com, right?
Love you, Gigi.
You can find his book there.
So I was thinking maybe I can read just a small excerpt from, I think, one of the last chapters, just so, I don't know, just so you get a feel for what kind of stuff you're going to see in the book.
Yeah, we're going to get an audiobook preview. Let's do it.
Okay, so I think this is from the chapter 10 or 11. Anyway, so as I already said that you hear about Bitcoin by the end of the book. I'm not trying to drill the idea of Bitcoin to the first person who picks up the book in the first second of their reading, right? So this chapter, I'm going to quoting. This chapter is only supposed to introduce you to Bitcoin. It's supposed to show you that in a world where your money, and thus your time, is continuously devalued, there's a potential technological solution. In a world where you are forced to work nonstop, where you have to run like a hamster in a wheel, where you have to chase the carrot like a donkey, there is a potential to break free. There's a way to store your hard-earned wealth in something that is finite, in something that is not being constantly devalued through inflation. Unlike any other currency, Bitcoin is designed to value your time. In the time when your money loses its value day by day, your personal data is controlled by a handful of tech giants, your privacy is stripped for ad revenue, Bitcoin is a breath of fresh air. Falling into the Bitcoin rabbit hole opens up a vast world of knowledge and hope. Exploring Bitcoin has greatly expanded my understanding of various subjects, including economics, banking, politics, psychology, sociology, and many others.
It's a beautiful ode to Bitcoin. And it's like, it's true. Bitcoin is a gateway to learning more about yourself, the world, how it operates, and why you should focus on saving time by fixing the money. Misir, I think this is a perfect place to end it. I don't want to drag this on too long because I think we compacted a lot into 53 minutes here. Unless you have any last questions, Matt.
Nope. Much love. Love you, dude. Can't wait.
Yeah.
Can't wait for our next dinner.
I love you guys as well. You guys are doing Satoshi's work, and I will always support you guys. Thank you so much for having me, and I hope that Tales from the Crypt will exist for many, many years to come.
It shall, if we don't get kicked off all the platforms. You freaks can go to timeandmoney.co. That's timeandmoney.co to go purchase this book. Will save you time by the next J.K. Rowling, Misir Mahmudov. That's all we got
Or
this
you
week,
can
freaks.
go on my Twitter, Misir_Mahmudov, and then you'll see a link there.
That as well. We'll link to all this in the show notes. That's all we got today, freaks. Peace and love. Tiki!